Hey there, this is Jen T. Grace, founder of Publish Your Purpose, and I am here today with Kelli Houston, and we are talking about your new memoir, The Unintentional Comedian: Lessons from a Life Unexpected. And I was just raving about how much I love your book cover, so I'm just going to put it up for everyone to see. I'm obsessed with this. Your cover is amazing. Before we dive into all the details, I would love for you to kind of just share a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here, Jen. So excited. I'm really excited about the book, and I love that you love the book cover. And I had joked earlier that I wish I was that weight, but I can't be anymore, never again. So I have been a healthcare professional for probably going on 20 years, and for your audiences, I am only 25, so this olive
Yes.
oil is keeping my skin tight. Apparently, that I can stay this youthful. And I have built a career around understanding, bringing purpose to the healthcare industry in in the world of diversity, equity, inclusion. That is my passion. I have led several diversity efforts across organizations such as Seattle Children's Hospital, um, organizations in Oregon, Washington. Most recently, I was with a chief equity officer for Community Health Plan of Washington in Washington, and now I'm based in Portland. So, still a diversity consultant, and now an author. And so, very excited about the work that I've done and the work to hopefully continue to do within the community. That means so much to me.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I love, just the positions that you've held because you're obviously you have a lot of influence over helping a lot of people, especially in, health spaces, which is very important. And your book is called The Unintentional Comedian. So I love kind of like this, I am this professional stature of a human being, and also I have this really awesome fun side to me, which I've gotten to experience throughout this process, which I very much enjoy. So can
Thank
we
you.
unpack a little bit just the where the unintentional comedian came from?
Sure. So when I had initially started writing the book with Brandy Lay, who is part of your team, who was my ghostwriter in this process, the book has a lot of my experience. It's a memoir, so it's got a lot of not only my personal life experiences as a child growing into an adult, but I was a stand-up comic for a good period of time and had auditioned for Last Comic Standing, had performed in Los Angeles, had performed in other places, and specifically in Arizona. And the a lot of my humor comes out in the book, and so I wanted a book that was about me, and but not just about me, but the essence of who I am, which is, when you feel sad, you have to find laughter and humor in something. And we had been going through a lot of the titles about how do we make this funny for you, but how do we really make it clear that you got into something you just not did not intentionally choose to get into, which was comedy.
Mhm.
And so thus was born the unintentional comedian, because there was not a lot of intentionality in going into stand up or going into that arena. And even in the book, I talk about the fact that I was just like a, a deer in headlights with doing stand up, where I'm like, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, I wasn't like the what you see, and that I kind of was the female Eddie Murphy of comedy, where I'm like, maybe not as funny as he is, but really just a very teetotaler, clean life at the time I was married, and very, went home to my person, and that was it. So I it was no intentionality in doing this work. But then it also was weird because the unintentional comedian also parlayed into my life, where I did not have any intention of going into diversity and inclusion. I thought I was going to be a consultant and helping small business owners build their business brand. And I have an MBA, and so I was like, let me help, especially women owned businesses. That meant a lot to me, to help other women to strive to be their best selves in their chosen fields. And so that meant a lot to me. And then as I got into other professions and doing other work, and particularly in diversity, equity, inclusion, all unintentional. And so the book title just seemed to, flow into my life's work and who I am as a person. So
I love that. It's nice when it just kind of has a nice ring to it. And and it does encapsulate your life. And, for a book title, it's just such a good book title. I think, short and sweet, it gets to the point. And then now there's the lessons from a life unexpected. So when you were deciding what lessons to include in here, I imagine there's probably been many, even though you're only 25. So what does,
Yeah, same.
like,
All of LA.
what was your, I guess, thought process in terms of like what lessons you wanted to kind of impart on other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think the purpose for me always was I wanted folks to feel if they were struggling or dealing with a life lesson that was difficult for them to endure or to even to bring those emotions that up to surface, that you were not alone. Um,
Mhm,
as a gay black little girl in Reno, Nevada, I felt alone
mhm,
many, many times in my life, and I think that's why I wanted to write a memoir. Although I was like, who's going to know who the hell I am, right? Like, but I just thought like there are people out there who experience things that I experienced, but came out in a very different light, or maybe are still trying to figure out their life's purpose. I talk about uh, self, authenticity. I try to be as authentic as I possibly can, but trying to learn who you are as you're growing up, it is already difficult when you're young, and it's even more complicated when you're gay.
mhm,
And it's even more complicated when you're a person of color.
mhm,
Particularly, we see that in our time now. And so, for me, I think about the journey that I had and how it was really purposeful in writing a book to think about not only just cathartically how this experience growing up and living the life I lived, having the family I did, the friends I have. Um, I realized like this could really help someone to think, one, you're not alone. Two, that there are others who are struggling, but they come out on the other side. And so
mhm,
it was really important for me to have that. One of the stories in the book that I think is very telling of my life is there's very deep, dark, personal story that has a lot to do with self-awareness and loss, and when I was in that despair, and I had a friend that helped get me out of that despair. And later, we don't laugh about it, but we think about it now together around how, I could have been lost from that despair and not able to do the things that I have gone on to do in my career, and also not able to go and live the life that I live today and have the partner I have today and the little family I'm building today. So,
mhm,
um, I'm I feel really blessed. I don't say that often, but I do, because there are people who have looking out for me. I talk about that in the book about, my
mhm,
parents, how much they inspired me, even in the way they didn't think they could, but inspired me to always be true to myself.
mhm,
And be very um, understanding of others, aware of others, putting community above as much as you can yourself sometimes. Um, and then I learned as I got older how to put myself first. And those are things that from the book that I think are incredibly important lessons that I learned as I was even writing. Like, I didn't realize I was that good at that.
yeah.
A good thing I can tell my therapist that now. So it's really important that as you start to go through your journey in life, or even think back to what your journey in life was, that you do have purpose. You do have the ability to make your life better and help to make others' lives better just by showing up and being authentic in the way that you do it.
Mm, yeah, I feel like you just said so much goodness. And I wonder, and also this wasn't intentionally planned for June 2nd to be part of Pride Month, but it kind of worked out perfectly that way for, like your
Yeah.
launch and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
which is amazing, right? And so it gives us an opportunity to kind of go pull at that thread a little bit in thinking about when you were coming out. If you go back in time of a time that we will not share what that time was, but if you go back in time, like, did you reach out? Like, did you look for books or did you look for people or did you look for stories that felt like there was any chance that you would feel represented?
It's so funny, Jen, that you say that because in the book I talk about how like there were no people in the 80s. I mean, I joke that I'm 25, but I am older than I look. And a lot of my friends who are on the live stream were all the same age. And so there were absolutely no role models that I could think of. Even as like the closest I could get was Facts of Life with maybe, somebody on there that, in the 80s that had that kind of butch
Mhm,
mentality. But there was nothing, there weren't even books on
mhm,
being out and being gay and being proud and being as we see that this generation has the opportunity to have. This is one of the reasons why I wrote the book is you think
mhm,
about the fact that growing up in the 80s and a child product of the 80s where it was a it was all about me, when in reality it was really difficult to be open. And so in the book I talk about there were three people I came out to that one I'm two I've been friends with for years and one I haven't spoken to in a while. But um, I remember coming out to those folks and saying, one was gay and he was like, I'm out. And I was like, God, I wish I could do that. But
mhm,
growing up in a very religious household where just being open about that scared me, and I knew that I couldn't be who I wanted to be and love who I wanted to be without there being a loss in some way, and I didn't want to lose
mhm,
what mattered the most to me, which was my family. And so I held that in for years, outwardly. And but a small group of people knew. So when I did come out, I came out to one friend especially. We were on the tennis court. My friend Lisa, who I've known since we were 13 years old, 12 actually. We've known each other since the seventh grade. And so when I came out to her when I was about 16, we were playing tennis. And I remember I was hitting a lob ball over and I said, I just need you to know I'm gay. And she was just like, well, at least let me try to hit the ball. I mean, hold on a minute, right? Like, let's finish the game first,
awesome.
and we can talk about emotional issues, And and I think it was because that was freeing
Mhm,
to, and then for her to say, you're still my best
mm,
friend, and I still love you for who you are. God, I mean, I really do have some amazing people in my life who care about me and who still
mhm,
think about me as their friend, even if I do have this other special part of me that is really hard to share.
mhm,
And again, growing up in a Christian household where growing up in a Christian household where you were taught this was wrong, made it even more complicated. But I still couldn't understand why I was in love with Mrs. Anderson, right? So you had so many, so there were no real role models other than we kind of became our own role models as those of us that are growing up and together who did come out. And I found my tribe through that way. So
mhm,
so it was great growing up in the time period I grew up, but it was, as I talk about in the book, it was a true struggle to not to continue to hold all these emotions in without being able to say, being proud. So when I actually came out of the closet, like for like real, I was 30 years old,
mm,
and I told my mom, and she I talk about it again. Like, I love my mom. I wish she was here today. I think she'd be proud of me. But I remember her saying, "Well, are you going to be one of those dykes on bikes?" And I thought, "How the heck do you know anything about a dyke on a bike or a bike dyke?" I don't. I didn't even understand she knew those words. Like, that's just shocking to me. Even I was like,
mm,
I don't even know those people. So, um, so it was interesting because I thought, will I be a dyke on a bike? I, don't, I wasn't sure. But I was very happy to finally be free. It is like a
mhm,
chain around your
mhm,
body. The way I can illustrate it for folks is if you remember, um, like the movie Scrooge, where he had chains wrapped around his body
mhm,
because he was being held down by the wealth that he had put it on upon himself without having love in his life. That
mhm,
was what being in the closet felt like for
mhm,
me. I, had all these other
mhm.
things that were going for me, but I was chained by the lack of being able to be my most authentic self.
Mm. Yeah, that's so powerful because I think what feels like the narrative is in our current society is that, there's so many people who are out and so many role models and so many books and podcasts and information and people being themselves that it somehow makes the coming out process easier. And the reality is that that is not true. It might make information more accessible. Perhaps you see yourself represented in some way, but it's still the coming out process. It's still hard as hell for people to kind of work their way through it, especially teenagers and especially from different, parts of the country where it's a lot more difficult to come out. And so I think that's why your book is really important and matters. And I love that you have like the little version of you on the cover because I feel like it almost makes it feel more accessible too, right? Where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
like I was once,
Yeah.
young like that. Let me take a look and see what this person has to say. And the fact that you do have like a
Yeah.
comedic lens woven throughout it, I think also kind of like I think comedy, obviously this, like just breaks the ice for things. It gives us an opportunity to talk about hard things, but we can
Yes, it
do it through a
does.
lens that people feel more comfortable and more relaxed, and then
Yeah.
ultimately have perhaps a better coming out experience as a result.
Yeah, I mean, you said a mouthful there with that, and that's very true because that's a 3-year-old that's on that cover who
Mhm.
was deeply loved but deeply closeted. I didn't know I was gay, but I believe that we're born with who
Mhm.
we are,
Mhm.
and I think it was my mom dressed me up in dresses, the moment I didn't have to wear dresses again, I was like I was a tomboy, and there's a picture of me
Mhm.
in there. And I
Mhm.
was a tomboy age, and I still had pigtails because apparently that was the thing. But I was very much indoctrinated in the belief system that I needed to be a girl.
Mhm.
And when I had boyfriends, I talk about my boyfriends in there and what that was like. And a really crazy story that is in that book as well is when I actually came out to a boyfriend. I broke up with them through a post-it note, and um, seems right.
Very formal.
And I in the post-it note I just simply said, I wish I could be with you. I think you're amazing, but I'm so gay. I had to do this through a post-it note, and I think with that was the telling of the fact that I one was a coward, but two just really needed to just keep saying it.
Mhm.
I needed it to be out there. I needed to say it openly. I needed it to be clear. It, that this was who I was, and it just
Mhm.
really through. I mean, even then he laughed. I tried to do it in a way that was loving. I don't know if it's a terrible way to do it, but I we're still friends today, right? Because
Mhm.
I think he recognized, like, after he got over the fact that he was not going to join me in a girlfriend, I think it was now we're really going to be friends, and this is who I
Mhm.
really am, and he respected
Mhm.
that. Being out, especially now in this tumultuous time, as you know, Jen,
Mhm.
where we're just being persecuted on a
Mhm.
continual basis. This is why diversity, equity, and inclusion is so important, is because the persecution that continues to exist is permeated in the fact it's all based in fear.
Mhm.
So it's the fear for folks to not understand that we are who we are. We're people, we're consumers, we're friends, we're family, we are business owners, we're leaders, we're many things, we're authors, we're all these things. And you can't take that away from us.
Mhm.
And so while I do have invoke a lot of humor in this, the seriousness of it is about the fact that no one will ever change who I am. I will never change who I am unless it's for the good of
Mhm.
humanity. But I have to continue to fight the good fight and to do the good work to ensure that people who are me continuously can be free and not be ashamed of who they are.
Mhm. Yeah, and that is really, doing the Lord's work here, trying to like really show people that there's a pathway to being whole and complete and safe and loved and all of the things that they may not be feeling in this very moment. And I think that's why to me, there's no
Right.
such thing as too many books about coming out. I don't think that could possibly exist because everyone's experience is so different. And maybe, like you were
Yep.
talking about being a tomboy, also was a tomboy. And so like that might be the only thing that connects, like, as a common denominator about our queer experience, is that maybe that we're tomboys. That might be the only thing. And so thinking
Right.
about it from that perspective, like, you add a bunch of other queer people in, and it might only be like one thread, where the narrative out there is that we're all just kind of the same. And the reality is, someone's going to resonate with your message over mine, or mine over yours, for any number of reasons. And the queer piece is one tiny little piece of a much, much bigger puzzle.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's why I bring up the fact that we are still human above everything else.
Mhm,
We have a very special uh, part of us that is, I don't think I would be who I am today if I wasn't able to be out and be
mm,
authentic.
mhm,
It is my mission to continue to be an advocate for our community, to be an advocate for Black and Brown communities, to be an advocate
mhm,
for people who need um, someone in their corner. And I talk about that in the book. Like, if there's ever a time where we need somebody in our corner who's like us, this is the time. And my
mhm,
hope is that this book can be that saving grace for someone
mhm,
through a little bit of humor, sadness, and many parts of this book. There are very sad parts of it. It's not just based in humor. There's things
mhm,
about it that in my life that were incredibly hard,
mhm,
but it's the reason why I brought it out to the surface. I mean, there's things, there are areas in that book that are incredibly personal that some people never share with others, but I'm sharing
mhm,
it with a lot of folks in the hopes that it saves someone's life, just
mhm.
as it did for me.
Yeah. And
So,
what
if anything, the importance of this is to have that opportunity to give somebody life back.
Mhm. Yeah. I just think of, like, when I was coming out, I was 19, and I just remember going to a
Mhm.
Borders when Borders still existed. And I
Oh
went to,
God,
like,
border.
the state over. I wouldn't even go in my own state. And there was like a shelf that had like four books on it, and it was like buried in a corner, and it was useless. There was like literally nothing there that was of help in it at
Yeah,
any way. And that was like
yeah,
1998, 99.
yeah,
And so like I just think of how freaking cool it is that because of our collaboration, and because of your vulnerability, and your deciding, like, I want to share my story because I want other people to feel seen by it. Like, how freaking cool is it that somebody who might be struggling, who might feel like they have nobody, can find your book and feel like they found a way forward. Like, that to me is like the best freaking part about doing all of this work,
yeah,
is that person who might just stumble across your book on Amazon in the middle of the night to be like, wow, this is exactly the voice I need to hear to get me through
yeah.
this dark time.
Thank you for saying that, Jen. That means a lot. I will counter your enthusiasm and appreciation to you, because without you and the work you do as a publisher and giving us authors an opportunity to publish our own work, we wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to have been
Mhm,
able to have this opportunity to give someone that light. And so I'm grateful for you and the work that you and your team do to make it happen for all of us. So it's really wonderful that we all can do this for each other within our communities.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's honestly what it makes me tick. It keeps me going when this business is not always the easiest business to operate. But it's
Yeah.
like truly having the conversation on launch day where I'm physically holding the product that we have co-created together, and then be able to read it and enjoy it, to be like, "Oh, this person's so amazing." Because like I
Thank
get
you.
to, like, I know you're amazing, but now once I actually read the full story, I'm like, "Oh, now I see how she ticks." And I'm excited about that.
I think it's good. My hope is that when people do read it, they who know me, that they'll know this is why I'm the way I am.
Mhm.
There's stories in there that of people who I know really well still know to this day that are like, "Oh God, I can't believe I'm in this book." And I did change names to
Mhm.
protect the innocent or not so innocent, and so to make it interesting. But there's so many people in my life that even make me who I am today. And especially my parents, I miss them. They've been gone for my mom passed away in 2023 and my dad passed away in 2018. And I talk a lot about them. And my parents were really great people. My dad was a revolutionary man who was like the first black police officer in our hometown in Reno, Nevada. And, he's got his own, he had a history in itself that I tell in the story because he wasn't able to tell his story.
Amazing.
And so it really does, my hope is that it honors them as people. It wasn't easy. And it wasn't easy to raise me. It wasn't easy sometimes to have them as parents, but they were the best parents that I could have possibly ever had wished for. And I know that they're happy about who I was when they were alive, and the life that I led and the work that I'd done, that led me to becoming a chief in a C-suite that I never thought I would ever be in that place. And then I was, and they had a chance to see me in that space. They had a chance to see me graduate from college. They had a chance to see me do a lot of really great things. And so I'm really glad. I wish they were here today, but I'm really glad that they were able to partake in a lot of that because I know that they were proud. And I do have a funny story about my mom that I'm happy to share. There's two. So when I first did stand up, uh, I did stand up in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I actually had a little bit of a following. And I remember I came home and my mom had heard it from someone because I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on social media, much to Jen's happiness. And I I remember my mom goes, "I hear you do stand up," and she said, "You were never funny." And I said, "And this is why I'm in therapy." And these are the things. These are the things that I have to deal with. And she's like, "You were never funny. You still." But it's just those kind of fun, that's how my
Mhm.
my mom was. But I love that. I can still share that with her, and it was funny. Maybe I just didn't tell her because I thought she wouldn't think I was funny. But at some point, she did hear a little bit of it, and she thought it was cute. She was like, "That's
Mhm.
cute." And even when I told this story today, when my mom passed away, um, it was really hard. She had a stroke, and
Mhm.
she was in she was in palliative care for a very small period of time, and then she passed. And I remember I walked into the room, and it was really hard. And my sister was there, and it was terrible. And we had music playing for her. She was into gospel music, and we had music playing for her. And I thought I was going to be leaning in to kiss her goodbye and listening to gospel. And she had this fixation with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle that I found to be unnatural. Frankly, let me just be real. It was unnatural, and I didn't understand. She would read this. She'd read his book for many many times over, and we played it on the background. And I remember I leaned in, and all I could, as I kissed her goodbye, I leaned in and I could hear a British accent. And all I could think, Jen, was I really hope to God that my mom did not pass away listening to Prince Harry talk about his member. That was what my thought was as I because he talks
Yeah.
about it in the book, and I thought, "Is that how my mom died?" I really hope not.
Maybe.
But it was those kind of moments. Please, Jen, don't let it happen. But those kind of moments where, in the space of sadness and pain that I was feeling, where I lost an incredibly important person in my life, like that, I could lean in and actually have that moment of brevity, was kind of how my life has been.
Mhm.
And even for me today, like uh I have a lot of friends that are no longer with me that I talk, and I miss those people in my life. But what is so important is that I have them around me, and that I have even people in my life now that are around me that give me purpose and strength and
Mhm.
humor and laughter and love and light. And again, that's the purpose of this book. You talk about
Mhm.
publishing. What is your purpose? That's the purpose, is to inspire, to bring joy in times of sadness, in times of pain, in times of despair. It's always important that we find someone in our life that can bring that into our lives. And my hope is that that's something that this book will bring.
Oh, that's so amazing. So my last question for you is going to be, if you could wave a magic wand and we are 6 months from now and someone comes up to you and they say that their book resonated with them in some particular way, what is your hope that that person might be saying to you?
My hope is that they're saying to me that your book made me laugh. You're funny, uh, and that I found a morsel of your book that gave me a sense of purpose and gave
Mm,
me a sense of joy in a period of not just about the comedy, but about the work that I've done and about the diversity and equity inclusion pieces that are
mhm,
woven into that may be banned in Arkansas. But it's really important for me that people know that this is my not just life's work, it's who I am, it's my DNA. I'm a woman of color, I'm a lesbian. I have many other areas of my life that of dimensions of diversity of who I am that again no one can ever take away from you. You
mhm,
know, as Kimberly Crenshaw brought to the surface of how we see those dimensions of diversity in our lives, that it is important to recognize that you are a special person regardless of how someone else sees you. And
mhm.
that's basically how I've lived my life in this way. So my hope is that somebody will take that away when they
Mm,
read the book.
I love that so much. That's such a great I wanna manifest that for you, that someone like that's the conversation we have by the end of 2026. I think that would be incredible.
Yeah. I
Mhm,
yes. That and that we remember that gay people matter.
mhm,
My hope is we get to that point where
mhm,
we are human, we are people, we matter,
mhm,
and you cannot take that away. Who we love matters. All of that matters.
mhm,
So my hope is that's where we
mhm.
come from as we
Yeah.
round out the year. And I do hope that folks who are listening, I know a lot of these folks are my folks, but I do hope
Mhm,
for people who are listening that you will go out and buy the book and,
mhm,
you know, celebrate that little girl that's on the cover who
mhm,
did not at all imagine that she would ever be in this space. My partner is a
mhm,
writer. I am not a writer, but I have so many people around me that help me get to where that little girl is today,
mhm,
um, that I couldn't be more proud of her and me and what my
mhm,
life has come around in full circle. So it's really exciting. And Jen,
mhm,
again, I wouldn't be have been able to even be here without you.
mhm.
So thank you for what you and your company has done. This that I never thought. I wrote it down when I wanted to be a comic too. I was like, I'm going to go on stage one day, and I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to do all these things. And I remember writing it on a bucket list, and then here we are in
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah. Yeah, we never know how long it's gonna take us to crack into that bucket list, but at least it's there and we can be unconsciously or subconsciously moving our way toward it. So I
That's
love
right.
this so much, so, so much. There's so many other things I could say or talk to you about, but for the sake of time, I will conclude us here. And so, your book, The Unintentional Comedian Lessons from a Life Unexpected, is available in all the major online retailers. So, whoever is watching, you want to go check it out, is obviously on Amazon. But my favorite is to go to bookshop.org, which is a B Corp that benefits and supports other independent bookstores. And so, if you are trying to make a conscious choice to support a broader community of people, going to bookshop.org is a fantastic place. And Kelli, where is the best way for someone to kind of keep in touch with you, follow along, whatever that might look like?
So I actually have built a website, kellyhouston.com. Yeah, and making it simple because I've had to build it on my own. But I really, if you have information or if you want to learn more, you want to book me for events, I'm open to that. I am a consultant, so I do things to that nature. I'm also working on getting opportunities to bring and showcase the book around to other places. So if you're interested, go to kellyhouston.com. This live stream will be on there, as well as how to buy the book and more about me. There's also some testimonials from folks who have had a chance to read the book.
Mhm.
I did not pay those people; those people did it for free. So I'm grateful that they that they really believed in in what I was doing. Check it out, and I'm really appreciative for just the opportunity to even just talk about just a snippet of the book and how we got here today. So thank you for
Yeah.
that, Jen.
You are so very welcome. I'm so excited and so thrilled to hear that you set up a website since we last talked. So go you. I love it.
Yep.
Hey, we can all do the hard things. You did it. So thank you again, Kelly. This has been such an awesome conversation. I so appreciate you. I appreciate your collaboration. I
Thank you.
appreciate your purpose and all that you're doing in the world. And